This problem, 5 and 1/3 minus 3 and 2/3, we're going to talk about it in the context of walking. Let's say, for example, that I wanted to walk 5 and 1/3 miles over the course of a day, and that by lunchtime I had walked 3 and 2/3 of those miles, and so I want to figure out how much more I needed to walk after lunch. Well, so I'm going to subtract 5 and 1/3 miles minus 3 and 2/3 miles. But I'm going to begin my thinking about this by thinking about my 5 miles, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these 5 squares which are representing miles. So each of these are a mile, and I'm labeling what I'm doing. So here's my 5 whole miles right here. Now I need to also, because I wanted to walk 5 and 1/3 miles for the whole day, I need to represent that. So I'm going to draw another mile, and I'm going to break it apart into thirds horizontally, and I'm only going to consider this third right here. This is that last third that I want to walk, and I'm going to say 1/3 of a mile. So now I have my 5 and 1/3 miles, and I want to take away my 3 and 2/3 miles. So I see here that I want to start, I'm going to think about this by taking away 2/3, that 2/3 that I have already walked before lunch first. Well, I see I have a third here, and these 2/3 are not part of my 5 and 1/3, so I need to rename one of my whole miles here into thirds. So if I do that, I'm going to cross out that 5 for the 5 miles, and I'm going to rename one of those miles, this mile right here, into thirds. So I'm going to do that right now. And so I have 4 whole miles, which you see right here, and I've got 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, plus the third that I have right here, so that's 4/3. So I've renamed 5 and 1/3 into 4 and 4/3. And as you can see, I can easily take away 2/3 miles now. So here's, I'll just put a check next to it. There's a third that I walked before lunch, and here's another third. So I've taken away those 2/3 miles, which leaves me with, if I take 2/3 from the 4/3, that's a third that's left, and that's a third that's left. And you can see here, I'm only counting thirds, so I'm subtracting 4/3 minus 2/3, which is 2/3 left, and you see that right there. And then I walked 3 whole miles after lunch, so I want to take away those 3 whole miles, and I see I have these 4 here, so if I take away 3 more, and I'm going to be consistent, I'm going to put a check here, a check here, and a check here, meaning I took those away, which leaves me with 1 whole mile, and then I have 2/3 miles right here that I still need to walk after lunch. So I'm just going to do this and write still need to walk. And I still need to walk this mile. So here's my 1 mile right here. That 1 mile is represented by this mile here, plus the 2/3 right here that I still need to walk. So after lunch, I still need to walk 1 and 2/3 miles.